Just when a lot of people thought the Karmelo Anthony case was entering a quiet appeal process, everything changed. His new legal team has officially filed two major motions that could completely reshape what happens next. They're asking for a brand new trial. They're asking for the judge to be removed from the case, and they're accusing the prosecution and the court of violating Karmelo Anthony's constitutional rights. Today we're breaking down exactly what was filed, what it actually means, and what happens next.
The Karmelo Anthony legal team led by attorney Russell Wilson says that Judge John Roach made what he calls problematic comments during a TV interview following the conviction of Karmelo Anthony. He was found guilty of murder for the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf at a Frisco track meet. Anthony was sentenced to 35 years in prison. During the appeals process, Anthony took on a new legal team. Today, they filed two motions, one for the judge to be removed and the other for a new trial. Let's talk about the motion for recusal first. In the court document, the grounds for recusal centers around an interview given just days after the jury's decision. The documents say that Judge Roach expressed personal opinions about the propriety and correctness of the jury's verdict, the fairness of the trial, and the correctness of the judge's own ruling during the trial. Russell Wilson says that this case remains a pending and impending proceeding and thinks that these comments can influence future rulings.
What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the Mind of M1. If you're new here, we cover major legal cases, current events, culture and news with facts first, and independent analysis. And if that's something that you're into, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and hype me up in the algorithm. Now, before we begin, everything that I'm discussing today is coming directly from the motions that were filed in court. These are allegations and legal arguments made by the appellate team. The court has not ruled on these motions, and prosecutors have not yet filed their response.
On the motion for a new trial, Anthony's legal team took issue with multiple points, including the tight restrictions about who could view the trial, saying that the courtroom was effectively closed to the public, claiming that this violates the Sixth Amendment to a public trial. 27 members of the public were allowed in the court. Proceedings were not allowed to be streamed. Now, another point that was raised in this motion is about jury instructions. The legal team claims that the instructions were made in a way that made it difficult for the jurors to consider Anthony acting in self-defense. This is standard procedure following a conviction. I'm told what happens next is that Judge Roach will refer this motion for recusal to the regional administrative judge. That judge can then set a hearing for the merits of this motion.
The biggest filing is the motion for a new trial. Now remember, a motion for a new trial is not the same thing as an appeal. Before the appellate court even reviews the conviction, the defense has an opportunity to ask the trial court to correct what they believe were serious errors. That's exactly what they're trying to do here. The defense argues that Karmelo Anthony's constitutional right to a public trial was violated. According to the filing, numerous hearings were held behind closed doors, inside the judge's chambers. The defense argues that those proceedings should have been open to the public, unless there was a legally sufficient reason to close them. Their position is that those restrictions violated both the Sixth Amendment and the Texas Constitution. The second argument may surprise a lot of people. According to the motion, the defense says prosecutors proposed what they described as a clean case. Neither side would introduce character evidence or unrelated past conduct involving either Karmelo Anthony or Austin Metcalf. But the defense claims that defense was broken the first day of trial. They argue prosecutors introduced evidence that forced them into an impossible position. According to the filing, Karmelo Anthony only had about 10 minutes to decide whether or not he would testify or not. The defense argues that this prejudiced his constitutional rights. Now, whether the judge agrees with that argument is an entirely different question. But this is now officially one of the issues before the court.
I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Tell the world that Melo's coming home. Breaking news, mangas and gentlemen. Didn't I tell y'all that Karmelo Anthony was filing for a new trial? Pure survival. I told y'all that. Everybody kept talking about, oh no, he's not even going to get an appeal. Pure survival. So how's he going to try to get a new trial? Pure survival. Because he was wrong. And I'm speaking it in existence because I feel as though 1,000% that it's going to get granted. Pure survival. Look at all the Jeff Metcalf racist rants. Look at the clerk that got fired for hiding receipts and sharing shit and evidence. Pure survival. This whole trial was definitely, he got blackballed during survival. It was so much unjust in this case, it's not even funny. So all of y'all racist posts and everything else, it all, got this thing going. And Hunter Metcalf, Pure survival, he done ran off with his brother's girlfriend, done moved in with the bitch and everything. Pure survival. You know what I mean? So it's a whole lot of dysfunction. And Jeff Metcalf, you with your motherfucking drunk, alleged child predator's behavior that you was arrested for, everything is coming out. There's a lot of new evidence. So I believe he will get a brand new trial. Pure survival.
Let's fucking go. We got motion, y'all. And by motion, Karmelo's legal team today filed the motion for a new trial and a motion for recusal for Judge Roach to recuse himself. I'm in the process of getting my hands on these motions. It might take a day or two, we will see, depending upon the clerk's speed. But I told y'all, and obviously I was advocating this from the jump. Where are you guys all at? Be like, he can't do that. It's going to be years before he sees it. Yeah, shut the fuck up, And the judge has 75 days to rule on this motion from the day that he got sentenced, which was 28 days ago. So he is statutorily mandated to rule on this motion within 47 days. We're going to see if there's going to be an evidentiary hearing. Again, I got to see the claims in here to see the strength of it. I'm still nervous because we're going to see all the claims that they made, and then I'm going to show you guys my motions to see how many overlap there is. But we're excited, man.
The second filing may be even more unusual. The defense is asking for Judge John Roach Jr. to be removed from any further proceedings in this case. Because after the trial, Judge Roach gave a television interview discussing several decisions he made during the trial. The defense argues that by publicly defending those rulings, he placed himself in a position where his impartiality could reasonably be questioned. Now, to be clear, this motion does not automatically remove the judge. Someone else would have to decide whether recusal is appropriate. Those are two very different things. So where does this case go from here? First, the district attorney's office will have an opportunity to respond to the motions. Then the court can decide whether a hearing is necessary. If the motions are denied, the case will continue through the normal appeal process. That means the appellate court will review the trial record, the legal briefs, and ultimately decide whether any reversible legal errors occurred. But it's important to remember, appeals aren't about retrying facts. They're about determining if any legal mistakes affected the fairness and outcome of the case.
It looks like Karmelo Anthony's team is fighting for a new trial and to get Judge John Roach dismissed. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, I reported that Karmelo Anthony had a new legal team behind him. And baby, they are not wasting any time. According to reports, Karmelo Anthony's team filed 2 motions. One to remove Judge John Roach from all post-trial proceedings, and another asking to have Karmelo Anthony's conviction thrown out completely. According to the motion, Karmelo Anthony's team argues that a new trial issue should be decided by a whole different judge and not Judge John Roach, and they want him to recuse himself. The reason Karmelo Anthony's team wants him to be dismissed is because of this interview.
Did the jury get it right?
Yeah, they did. You know why? Because they were picked based upon the law. They listened to the facts. It happened here in this very courtroom, and they got a verdict.
Karmelo Anthony's team also said he defended his courtroom rulings, declared Karmelo Anthony's trial a fair trial. He also said that Collin County should be the example for all murder trial proceedings. Yeah, where white people get to judge everybody and their mama? I'm sorry. The second motion filed said Karmelo Anthony's constitutional rights were violated. His team also argued that courtroom access restrictions deprived him of a public trial. Prosecutors backed away from the off-record agreement that ultimately did not allow Karmelo Anthony to testify in his own defense. We all know Karmelo Anthony got 35 years with a possible parole in like 17. Just because his team filed these motions doesn't mean they're going to get them, but we're going to keep our fingers crossed.
One thing I find interesting, the new legal team appears to be taking a very aggressive approach from the very beginning. Instead of simply waiting on the appeal, they're challenging the trial itself. They're challenging the courtroom procedure, and they're challenging whether or not the judge should continue presiding over post-trial matters. But this case is far from over. The conviction stands. Karmelo Anthony remains in custody, serving his sentence. But the legal battle is clearly entering a new phase. As more filings are released, as prosecutors respond, and as courts begin rulings, we'll continue covering every major update right here. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you believe the motions have merit, or do you think the conviction will ultimately stand? If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and hype me up in the algorithm. This is N1 Music. Peace.
Dallas appellate attorney Chad Ruback, who is not involved with the case, says the filings are extremely thorough.
They've left no stone unturned here. He's getting darn good representation.
But Ruback says getting a new trial is still a long shot.